Are you trying to compete this year? Because if you're trying to compete this year, why trade any of your big pieces? And that's that Shams is saying that many teams have expressed interest in Durant, mainly featuring the Houston Rockets, the San Antonio Spurs, the Miami Heat, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the New York Knicks. Now, there was a report from the New York Post saying the Knicks are out on KD, so let's put them to the side. Because to me, that never made a ton of sense with what they can get back. Plus, we have the report from Gambo that the Suns are not interested in Karl Anthony Towns. So those two things don't mesh up as much, right? So Houston, San Antonio, Miami, Minnesota. Also, Shams adds that there are several wild card suitors that have made inquiries on Durant the past 7 to 10 days. When you hear wild card suitors, what are the teams that pop into your head?
So this is excluding New York, who's not involved.
And the four that I just mentioned, Houston, San Antonio, Miami, Minnesota. Beyond.
I think the Clippers will have some relevant amount of interest.
That doesn't make sense to them for me. That just doesn't make sense.
Has much made sense for them the last couple of seasons, though?
Yeah, more than this.
They've been really been trying to piece things together.
More than this.
Past that, Dallas is not included in that group. I think Dallas is going to be a team that will have some interest in him. I wonder if Boston makes the call, because obviously next season they will likely be without Tatum for most, if not all of it.
Reports are saying that Jaylen Brown is now on the trade market or not in the trade. They're actively shopping some players. They're fielding calls for Jaylen Brown. They said
they're not 100% off of not trade.
It's everybody but JT.
Yep. I think Atlanta will be included in some capacity, stemming back to the trade deadline, which we've mentioned a few separate times. I feel like there's one other team that I'm missing that I wanted to throw in the
mix. Clippers, Atlanta,
Dallas, Atlanta, Boston,
Toronto.
Yeah,
Toronto definitely in there. And that's something that Jake Fisher reported with Mark Stein over the weekend. And so we're looking at realistically, we could get up to 10 potential teams that would offer something for Kevin Durant.
That's a third of the league.
What about Orlando?
I don't know if they want to bring in a bigger name. I don't know if they want to go that far, because that's going to take them giving up not Paolo obviously, but that will take them giving up Franz. Are they willing to give up 23-year-old Franz for a 37-year-old KD?
I wonder if there's a way.
What I will say,
to get the money to work without Franz.
I'm not sure about that. Would include Jalen Suggs.
It would be Suggs, KCP, Tristan Da Silva,
and probably
Goga.
Probably Wendell, because he's making more money. He's making $10 million.
I mean that, and maybe rerouting some of those guys and some picks. I don't know. I'm
not mad at the idea of it, but I just don't think that KD chooses there ultimately. But if they ask Paolo, he probably says yes. No disrespect to Franz, but the reverence for KD, worked out with KD each of the last 2 to 3 off seasons. There's a rapport there. There's an organic fit there, basketball-wise, too, on both ends of the court. There's a lot of sense there. And
Bradley Beal's already had in there, so
they would have a lot of cap space.
They'd have a lot. Detroit is a name Christian throwing out in the chat. We've had some Detroit ones in there in our trade machines. We are going to be doing some trade machines tomorrow.
What about Denver?
And that's something that a lot of Denver media, including DNVR, have put out there. Michael Porter Jr. and Christian Brown?
It would be MPJ, Brown. I feel like I'm missing one other contract with them off the top of my head.
Let's see here. I mean, let's just screw it. Let's get into this live, okay? So I'm putting in Denver and I'm putting in Phoenix in the spot track trade machine. So obviously Kevin Durant making $54 million, not a bad payday. Jamal Murray makes 46. Michael Porter makes 38. Zeke Naji makes 8. So let's send Michael Porter Jr. to Phoenix. Let's send Zeke Naji to Phoenix. That trade still currently fails. The Nuggets are a second apron team they cannot take on, so these contracts would have to match. Exactly. We're looking for $8.2 more million. You had Christian Brown in there. He makes 4.9. You still need $3.3 million. Teron Holmes makes 3.2. Peyton Watson makes 4.3.
Yeah,
I mean, this is most likely not going to work unless there's a third team folded in there. And I don't love a return of Michael Porter Jr., Zeke Nnaji, and Christian Brown. I don't like that.
No. Carlos, great idea. Obviously, money-wise, Aaron Gordon would certainly help to facilitate that, but I don't think they want to uproot so much of their team identity to bring in KD.
No,
So that means that no Murray and no Gordon is going to be on the table, and obviously no Jokic. Anybody else is probably fair game, but those three in particular are not going anywhere.
I mean, you'd have to add a lot of salary with Aaron Gordon as well, because Aaron Gordon makes $22.8 million next year to Kevin Durant's 54.
Yeah.
So even Aaron Gordon, Zeke Nnaji, Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, Durant Holmes, you're not even getting close. You still need another 10-ish. You need another $11.2 million. So I don't view Denver as somebody that can be a straight up swap. MPJ, Nnaji, P. Watt, and Holmes doesn't work, Andy. I don't know if I would really put Denver in there, but we can have them in wildcard teams just for time being. I think Orlando is also relatively unlikely. I'd put them near the bottom of these teams. I don't know why the Clippers are a part of this. I genuinely don't get it unless they're going to trade a Zoo, which I think would be a steal. Honestly, I think Zoo is a center reaching his prime that you pair alongside Devin Booker that you can easily build around. I don't see them trading Zoo. I don't see the Suns trading Durant for Bogdanovich, Powell, and Derrick Jones Jr.
Nah, it would have to be those two or two of those three names with Zoo.
With Zoo, right, but I don't know if that's going to happen, so I'd put them near the bottom of the list.
But I will say, though, with that, Steve Ballmer, no different than Matt Ishbia, is a big money spender.
It's true, but now there's limitations in place for what you can spend.
For sure.
So I would say from these random teams that I actually find relatively intriguing, I'd put Toronto probably at the top of that, below the other four teams that we have as solid interest in the Suns: Houston, San Antonio, Minnesota, and Miami. I would put that. And then Boston is interesting, Stephen. I don't know if they trade for KD and giving up a big piece, because are you going to trade for an older KD to pair alongside a post-Achilles recovery Jason Tatum? Are you trying to compete this year? Because if you're trying to compete this year, why trade any of your big pieces? He's not making any less money. You're not going to cut any salary. I don't know about Boston.
I think they are still trying to contend. They're not trying to waste any time, because at some point they're going to have to re-up on the books again. And that clock is ticking. So I think them being a team, like I mentioned that Bobby Marks mentioned, there's a handful of teams that are okay with the rental scenario. Maybe no other team is better suited, knowing that they have a perennial MVP candidate on ice in case he doesn't come back to re-up with going into the season after next.
Okay. Give me like a completely unrealistic wild card team. Like, think of it like it's the WWE and it's the Royal Rumble and it's counting down and it's the last entry and there's a surprise entry into the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. Is there a team that it's so off the radar we haven't even thought about them that you feel like, you know what, Kevin Durant would kind of make sense there?
Yep.
The Phoenix Suns?
Nah.
I kind of thought that's where you were going.
Nah.
Who?
The Milwaukee Bucks.
Wow. Really?
And I say that because the mutual respect that him and Giannis have, the understanding of how the NBA works with Giannis, and the ways in which they would wreak havoc on the East, especially the Celtics-less Eastern Conference going into next season. Obviously, that likely guts a majority of what they have as a roster. It's going to take 3 teams. It probably takes 4 to appease the Suns. But Milwaukee, some of the picks they have in terms of draft capital going forward, I would imagine if Durant was to choose an off-the-radar team that he would want to go to, pairing him up with Giannis, someone that's similar in age, similar in stature, similar in background and skill and versatility and IQ, there's a lot of sense there.
Okay. I'm going to try to figure this out right now. I think live trade machine stuff is fun. Okay. And I'm getting a full screen ad on Spot Track. Thank you so much. Okay. So Claxton and Cam Johnson to the Suns feels like a good starting point. Yep. Obviously, we're talking KD to the Bucks to join Giannis, which would be just absolutely disgusting. So Milwaukee, to make the money work, Dame to Brooklyn, I'm assuming. Does that work? Money? That trade is successful money-wise, okay? Mm-hmm. So Dame to the Nets. The Bucks get Kevin Durant. The Suns get Claxton and Cam Johnson. Now, why the hell would the Nets do this, right? Let's look at Milwaukee's draft picks. They got a 2026 first rounder. You send that to Brooklyn. They've got a New Orleans swap. You send that to Brooklyn. Another New Orleans swap. You send that to Brooklyn. Their own pick in 2028. You send that to Brooklyn. Because they're taking on Dame and you're getting KD. So you're clearing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 7 first-round picks and swaps that you have. All of those are probably going to Brooklyn.
Yep.
Right? Maybe 1 to Phoenix, 1 or 2 to Phoenix as well. Suns are getting Claxton, Cam Johnson, and maybe, I don't know. That's interesting. We'll dive more into that tomorrow. Bucks is an interesting one.
We all silly like the mayor.